Well, if you were expecting a Keshia Golden trial today, things took a very different turn. Because after nearly 4 years of facing a first degree murder charge and maintaining that she had acted in self defense, Keshia Golden has now pleaded guilty, but her plea was not for murder. When people do the most, I do the analysis. Let's go. Hey y'all, a quick update on the Keshia Golden first degree murder case out of Chicago, Illinois. Today, on August 24th, the same day that her bench trial was scheduled to begin, Keshia Golden pleaded guilty to involuntary manslaughter, and she was sentenced to 24 months of probation. So let's talk about what just happened because this is a huge development in this case. Today we got the outcome nobody could have predicted when this case first started. Keshia Golden will not be going to trial for first degree murder. Instead, she just entered a plea deal today to a reduced charge of involuntary manslaughter, and she received 2 years probation. Keshia Golden's case was scheduled to begin today as a bench trial before this judge, Judge Stephen Watkins. But instead of opening statements and witnesses, the case ended with a plea agreement. Her charges were reduced, and she's now been convicted of involuntary manslaughter. So now, Keshia Golden's going to serve probation instead of a prison sentence for stabbing and killing her live-in boyfriend, Calvin Sidney.
There's a new plea deal on the table in the case of Keshia Golden. Her supporters protested outside the Layton Criminal Courthouse this morning. She was charged with murder after allegedly stabbing her boyfriend following a domestic violence incident in 2022. She was 8 months pregnant at the time. Today, she'll reportedly accept a deal where she pleads guilty to a lesser charge of manslaughter and is sentenced to probation. Her trial was scheduled to begin today.
Now, this is such a big deal because for almost 4 years now, the defense's position has been very clear. Keshia Golden said she was defending herself. She was 8 months pregnant when she stabbed Calvin Sidney following a confrontation in their home in October of 2022. Keshia's attorneys have maintained that Calvin Sidney attacked her and that she grabbed a knife because she was trying to protect herself and her unborn child. Prosecutors have presented a different version of events, though. According to prosecutors, Keshia Golden and Calvin Sidney got into an argument. Calvin pushed Keshia onto a counter and some family members who were present at the time tried to intervene. Calvin went into a bedroom, and prosecutors say that Keshia Golden later followed him with a knife and stabbed him in the leg, severing the artery surrounding his femur. He later died at Mount Sinai Hospital. So we've essentially had two competing narratives. From the beginning, there was self-defense versus criminal conduct. And today, the debate didn't get decided by a judge after a trial. It ended with a plea. Now, before you say, wait a minute, if she was acting in self-defense, why did she plead guilty? That is a fair question, but a guilty plea doesn't necessarily mean that every allegation made by the prosecution was proven at trial. I mean, there was no trial. There was no judge weighing all of the evidence and issuing a verdict after hearing witnesses. Keshia Golden made the decision to accept a negotiated plea deal. And according to her attorneys, this was a difficult decision. Her legal team said that Keshia Golden accepted the plea because it allowed her to avoid the possibility of a much harsher outcome after trial, and it allows her to continue raising her daughter. Now, that distinction is important because legally, today's outcome is a conviction. But the circumstances around why she accepted the plea deal, well, that's something separate. Earlier this year, prosecutors had already offered Keshia a deal involving second-degree murder and 2 years of probation. But Keshia Golden rejected that deal flat out. Her defense team maintained that she should not plead guilty to murder because they believed that she acted in self-defense. And then as trial approached, prosecutors were prepared to offer something different. involuntary manslaughter with 2 years of probation. And this time, Keshia Golden accepted the deal. Now, that's a substantial difference. Instead of going into trial facing a first-degree murder charge, she walked away with a conviction for involuntary manslaughter and no prison sentence at all. Under Illinois law, involuntary manslaughter involves an unintentional killing where the person's conduct was reckless and it created a likelihood of death or great bodily harm. And see, the important word here is recklessly. That's different from a first-degree murder conviction. The state was no longer asking the court to find Keshia Golden guilty of intentionally or knowingly killing Calvin Sidney in the manner that it was alleged under the murder charge. Instead, the negotiated conviction is for involuntary manslaughter, and the sentence was probation. What does this mean for the self-defense argument of Keshia Golden? And well, it means that we'll never get the courtroom answer that a lot of us were expecting. We don't have a judge saying that Keshia Golden was justified in using deadly force against Calvin Sidney. But we also don't have a judge saying that the state proved beyond a reasonable doubt that Keshia Golden committed first-degree murder. Because neither one of those things happened. The trial never happened. Keshia Golden pleaded guilty before the evidence was fully litigated in court. And that means that people can still have very different opinions about whether she was justified in defending herself. But legally, she has now accepted responsibility for involuntary manslaughter. And honestly, this is where criminal cases tend to get complicated because sometimes defendants aren't choosing between I'm innocent or I'm guilty. They're choosing between do I take the certainty of this negotiated outcome or do I risk everything at trial? Keshia Golden had been facing a first-degree murder charge for nearly 4 years now. A conviction on that charge could have resulted in a dramatically different sentence. Instead, she now has a felony conviction and 2 years of probation on her record. And that's a very different outcome from the one that she was facing when this case first began. And according to her attorneys, remaining out of prison and being able to raise her daughter played a major role in that decision. And this is why I think Keshia Golden's case was always bigger than just the question of did she stab him. Nobody was really disputing that. The bigger question was why did she do it? Was she responding to an immediate threat when it happened? Was the amount of force legally justified? Did the danger continue after that initial confrontation? Those are questions that a trial would have explored in much greater detail. But we're not going to get that now. We're not going to get that trial. At least not the way we expected it to happen. So now, after nearly 4 years, the Keshia Golden murder case has come to an end with a guilty plea to involuntary manslaughter and a sentence of 2 years probation. No murder conviction, no prison sentence, but also no acquittal. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who can use this message. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and leave a comment down below letting me know your thoughts. Was this a victory for Keshia Golden because she avoided prison and the murder charge? Or was it a compromise that still leaves unanswered questions about self-defense? Meet me in the comments. We can continue the conversation there.